So first of all, welcome Dr. Julie Gurner, aka Wendy Rhoades. And by the way, when I subscribed to your newsletter, the first ever edition I saw was on the power of audacity, and that changed me for the rest of my life because before that I was taking small decisions, small actions, and I was like, I'm not experienced enough. I should take on smaller clients. But after reading that, I was just like, let me just take one risk, and I approached one of the biggest media firms of India, and they replied back and they became my client in the next 15 days. so
Wow.
for me it really really worked, but I would like to hear from you. What are your opinions? Should we move like what's mentioned in books like Atomic Habits, like a small incremental progress every day, or should we take big bold steps that some people are very insecure of, some people may be very afraid of? So where should we move towards?
I think that you have implemented this concept exactly right, which is, for the everyday foundational items, you want to be consistent. Big companies are based on consistent, small, incremental steps. But if you never take big, bold, audacious moves, you always stay middle and mediocre. You have to make those big moves and those big audacious steps from time to time, because those are what really catapult you into higher levels of functioning. It makes your business more successful. It gets you to take chances. And you have used that concept from the ultra successful newsletter on Substack and really run with it in a way that can transform your business. If you think about it, if you take one big swing and you take one big swing every quarter, twice a year, I mean, that will transform your business. It transforms your life. So I think you've implemented this concept well. You don't want to do it every single day. It doesn't make any sense. You have to be able to catch up with it. But to be able to have the foundational items moving at a consistent clip, and then you take these big swings on a regular basis, things are going to hit, and it makes such a big difference in your work and life.
Damn, that's very true. And as you said, it cannot be implemented every single day. We need to execute those plans as well, and it takes time. It takes a lot of mental energy. It takes
Yes.
strength, and yeah, that's awesome. Also, ultra successful newsletter. Just a backstory. So this is a paid newsletter that I haven't subscribed till. I subscribed it in January. So there is an awesome story behind it. So Dr. Julie Gurner, she held this one big giveaway on her Twitter feed that said that she will give 1 year access to 10 lucky followers who will give her a compelling reason. And I was one of them. And after receiving that newsletter, I've decided that I'm going to subscribe to this newsletter for the rest of my life because it is so impactful and the return on investment is just, you cannot even calculate that in monetary terms. So, by the way, have you seen the show Billions?
I have seen the show Billions. It is the first time I think my mother understands what I do for a living. So it is wonderful to have a character that represents my
Yeah,
work. Although I wish she was more ethical, than I tend to be far more ethical. Ethics are very important to me, but it is wonderful to have a character that represents what executive performance
yeah,
coaching actually looks like in the field.
exactly right. And as the topic of ethics came up, I would like to ask, in one of your newsletter, you mentioned this, that being a good person isn't the same as being a nice person. And a lot of people confuse between these two. In fact, being good sometimes means not being particularly nice. And I would love to explore this with you because it seems very similar to us, that being good and a nice person and a good person, aren't they the same?
That is true. I mean, the thing about it is that, when you are a nice person, oftentimes being nice is very inauthentic.
Uh,
Nice people are helpful, they go out of their way, they make people feel
yeah,
comfortable, even when it sacrifices themselves, right? Like, even though you may feel differently, or you may not agree with something, or you may not honestly believe or want something, sometimes you'll sacrifice yourself to make others feel kind of comfortable in a way that, sometimes is not in alignment with who you are. People take advantage of nice people sometimes. And, good people, they carry a very strong moral compass. They are, very well grounded. They are kind, but they also stand their ground and hold their boundaries. And if something they do not agree with, or if something doesn't seem right, they never do anything out of cruelty or out of malice or out of ego, but it holds you to a different standard than nice. You have to be true to who you are, what you need, what your morals are, your values are. And you do this in the kindest of ways, but you will hold those lines. And sometimes that means having hard conversations, and conversations that people don't want to hear. So it's one of those things that, it builds trust over time. People don't trust someone who always tells them yes, or who always says, oh, that looks wonderful, when in your heart it does not. These are people that, are very nice to have around, but you don't always trust them as much. So good people are trusted. They give you hard information. Sometimes they say it in ways that care about you and that, you can hear it, but they will hold their lines and be honest and truthful. And I think that's what we want in people. And that's who we want to be ourselves as we move forward.
That's so true, and it's awesome that in almost all of my life's decision, there is some way your principles are there. Because I remember there's this client of mine which hired me 4 months ago, and so basically the work was about copywriting and marketing, and they
Mhm.
started giving me different things like technical integrations and stuff, and I don't want to do that. So because I was nice, I didn't say no, and I was doing all of those things, and that pile started just getting bigger and
Oh,
bigger, and
yeah.
they expected more and more of me. And because I could not confront them, I was trying to be the nice person, and then I read your newsletter about it, and I just confronted them face to face, and they kind of respected me for it. And so it's so amazing that I have a story with all of your newsletter episodes. Okay, so uh, I'm I'm daily asked about my plan B, like almost every day. What is your plan B if your agency does not succeed, if this business does not succeed? And you have a fantastic way of looking at it by the mindset of no plan B. And it's very scary to think of it. Please tell your audience what you mean by having no plan B.
Sure. I think that, no plan B does not mean that you don't approach things
Hmm.
smartly, right? Like, you want to always approach things with a strategy. You want to have a plan in place. You don't want to be homeless if this does not work out, correct? So you have a plan moving forward, and you kind of have a general understanding of where you want to go. But let's just say that you are telling your employer, hey, can you wait, put my job on hold. I'm going to try my business for a month. If it doesn't work out, I will come back.
Yeah.
In your mind, you are giving yourself something that I call cognitive outs, or in the back of your mind, you're giving yourself an escape plan already before you even get started. So that when things get very challenging or very hard, oftentimes the first thing that we will run to is to say, well, I always have this job I can go to. So why am I doing all of this work? Why
Hmm.
am I going to push forward
Hmm.
in this way? I can just go and make a salary and, do things the easy way.
Yeah.
And if you have that to run to, when things get really hard, will you choose to push through it, or will you choose the escape route? And many people will choose the escape route if they have it available to them. So what you want to be able to do is to give yourself a situation where you're setting your mind up to have the best place possible to make decisions, to push forward, to be
Hmm.
successful in your business. I remember reading about a man in South Korea who was starting a business, and he had no money at all, and he decided that he would he would leverage his own organs. So
Oh,
he made a deal where he would borrow money, and if he was not able to pay it back, he would have to donate his organs on the black
damn.
market for this money. And that man had all the incentive in the world
Whoa.
to run hard and make it happen. And I think he's now the second richest man in South Korea. I mean, it's just absolutely
Wow.
incredible. So if we give ourselves the opportunity to escape from the hard things, we often will do it. It's about planning thoughtfully, moving ahead in, as well as you can, and giving yourself every chance to succeed. A lot of times, people will ask you, what are you going to do if this doesn't work out? It starts to plant a seed of doubt in your mind. And as long as you keep doing the things you need to do, I feel like, you will start to prove yourself out. It starts to build confidence. You start to move ahead, and then you start to take other chances. So I want people to really set themselves up where they say, this is my way.
Hmm.
This is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to run hard and make it work.
Wow, that's such an awesome way of looking at it, that you need something on the line It does not need to be your organs if you're not that
Yes.
comfortable, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's an amazing way to look at life. So we have talked about performance, judgment, and decision making. There's this one question that's very emotional, specifically to the male audience. See, as a male, I've always been taught to suppress my anger and sadness and emotions. I cannot look weak in front of others. And
Yeah.
this is something that I feel proud of, that I've never screamed at anyone in my life. I've never shown anger. I've never even felt sadness. I've always smiled in front of people, even though I'm very, let's say, broken inside. So you wrote one sentence in your newsletter that you shouldn't push your so-called negative emotions down. The large players channel those emotions for a big time push, and it changed the way how I look at life. It would be awesome if you could expand on that.
Sure. I think that no matter who you are, as a human being, you experience these emotions. So even if you don't always show them, you experience them. And oftentimes they are incredibly strong. They are
Yeah.
powerful. And so, the thing about these emotions is they are so powerful, they carry with it incredible energy. And all emotions contain this energy, especially things like anger and sadness, the things we are told not to show, not to kind of it, but it doesn't mean you don't experience them. So are you going to get all of that great energy, even though it may be wrapped in very negative things or what society may see as negative? Are you going to push all of that energy down and away? Or are you going to experience that emotion and use it to drive you forward, to be ambitious, to be assertive, to kind of do great things in the world, to kind of show what you are capable of? You can use that energy in a way that is productive, even though you may experience it in a way that is intense and negative. I think that there's always a way of using that energy, and if you start to push that energy down and learn to suppress that kind of emotion inside of you, what other emotions then do you not get to tap into? And how are you keeping your own energy? How much energy are you expending keeping that stuff down? It's powerful stuff. And so I think that a lot of people, especially men, who walk around in the world are told, you should not even feel sadness at all. You should not even feel, anger at all. But everyone who is human is going to feel it. It's what you end up doing with it that will make the difference between whether you end up sad and kind of depressed and isolating, right? You stay away from other people, you don't want them to see, or you use these emotions to really make yourself bigger, stronger, more powerful, and really channel those into your work and the things that you're capable of, to be able to build yourself even from the emotions that are what others might see as negative. I have a post in that newsletter. It's called Use It All. And I believe very strongly that no matter what we experience in life, we can choose to experience it in a variety of ways. And I'll give you a very clear example. Some people may have been hurt in their past or have said things said to them which are very damaging. And some people will choose to say, I am a victim of these things.
Mm.
Other people will say, I am a survivor of these things.
Wow.
I am somebody who is going to use that. I have survived anything people have thrown at me, and I am going to push it forward and just become massive, right? Like I am going to show what I can do. So there are so many ways that the survivor is strong. We see the survivor as strong, capable, can do anything. But the victim is, sad and, oppressed and, feels powerless. The survivor is powerful. So I think that it's the same emotion, same experience. How you channel that matters. And I want people to be able to tap into that and recognize their own strength and power.
Wow, is it where your concept of internal positioning comes? Because the way you positions your thoughts and actions, because I've seen some people, uh, by the way, just for a background, I was not born in a, privileged or rich environment. I was born in a very poor family. Right now, we are kind of recovering from it. So I've seen this thing that there is this thought inside me that I will never be poor again. That motivates me far more
Yeah.
than I want to accomplish something, I want to prosper. So these negative emotions can really help if you frame it in a very powerful way. So, so would you like to explain something about that internal positioning thing?
Sure. I think that, once you know who you want to be and you define who you want to be, you don't allow other people to start creating those rules for you. It gets really into those imaginary rules. I think that people in society tell you, try to define what you go for, how you think about things, what you see your potential is, what you see your income is, what you think you can do. And you can see how all these concepts connect, right? Like when we first started off talking about being audacious, if you follow all of these kind of what I call imaginary rules, you aren't audacious. You play, very small, and you do all the things that people would expect of you. But as soon as you realize, hey, all of these restrictions that somebody has put on what I can do and what I am capable of and what my background means for me, like once you start to recognize these are imaginary constructs, these are not real, you're not going to play by those rules. You're going to create your own. That's when you start breaking out of those things, taking chances, and you will see progress very quickly. It's a theoretical line in the sand, and that everybody tries to hold others to them. It's true in America also. If you were brought up poor, people say, oh, well, you can only do these things, and this is kind of what you should strive for. This is what your life is probably going to look like. But you don't have to be that person. I also grew up in a household that was not wealthy. And I think people would have said the same thing. Yeah. But, it's whether or not you believe it is what makes it powerful. And so if you're able to say to yourself, yeah, I may have been born in not a privileged environment, and I never want to have this again. And I have the power to be able to go out and, the internet, you and I are speaking in 2 different countries right now. The internet's amazing. You can reach anyone in the world if you want to. If you are able to do that and continue to move forward, there's nothing that you can't learn, do, develop, and have access to at this point. And so it really flattens the world and gives you the opportunity to compete on a global level. And so these imaginary rules that we believe, I think a lot of people around us can believe them as well, and they try to kind of pull you back into them. But you have to actively fight against them and decide, what are the rules you play by? And maybe for you, one of your rules is, I will never be poor. And maybe one of your rules is, I will make X amount of money by the time I'm 30, or I will develop an agency that has this amount of revenue. And you start to map that forward, you create a plan, you work on it, you get others who buy into it, you have a very strong vision around it, and you just kind of make it happen. And I hope that you've seen by reaching out to that very large company and getting that contract, that nothing is really out of your reach. It's just the courage to do it and to try. So I think it's incredible how you've been able to integrate these things and really give it a shot, because it takes so much bravery, and it means you challenge convention, and challenging convention starts to make you very resourceful. You start to kind of get ahead of people who are just, playing by these certain rules. And then all of a sudden you're taking these big moonshots, right? You're like going for it. That's how people get ahead. That's how they really win. And it's why startups and technology companies often beat these very large players in the space, because they're taking small steps, Blockbuster or, other types of movie services. And then Netflix comes in and blows them all out of the water. That's what you have the potential to do as an individual as well. And I hope that you continue to dig into that.
I almost had a tear in my eyes. That is so beautiful. So also there is a side of me that I don't really talk about. And 2 years ago, I was in a really, really down phase. And when I subscribed to your newsletter, you kind of, so there are a lot of people who talk about mindset, but they're just like, they give tips around it. They give you hacks of getting your mindset strong, but uh, you make people see life differently. And I've experienced that. And I would like to say you're one of the reasons why I got out of that rabbit hole of that negative thoughts and start taking action. And my life's been better since. So thank you so much for that. And I would really hope that one day I get at a level that I could afford your consulting services, and then it would be pretty cool. So
it will be amazing. And you know what? If you're at that level in a few years, you hit me up and you are bumped to the top of my list. I would love to have the opportunity to work with you. And I think that it would be incredible to see where you could go from there. So yeah, if it is true, you know how to reach me. You can reach me directly. Do not hesitate to ever reach out. It would be an honor.
Thank you so much. Now that's another goal that will inspire me to do more stuff to afford Dr. Julie Gurner's service. So that's cool. That was the entire podcast, and I hope I think like it was so valuable. I can create like 10 newsletter episodes out of it. So it's gonna be awesome. Thank you so much for being on the podcast,
Fantastic.
and I would love to host you once I reach at that level again.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And for the audience, Dr. Julie Gurner has been very patient because today a lot of technical issues were happening, and uh, she was still smiling after all that. I was surprised that she isn't annoyed or anything. Thank you so
No worries.
much.